What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wolfpack Way. Today we have Mandy Regel from State College and Lock Haven and the surrounding areas up in PA, a little bit more rural, but she has some amazing insights on building a business 3 separate times, scaling her real estate business as she goes. She recently just left her dad's brokerage for the Wolfpack, and that's where, we have a similar connection. But just want to make sure that we dial in on the amazing agent that Mandy is. She is currently focusing on production and looking to build a revenue share organization. So if anything she says resonates with you, reach out. She has a great Instagram. We'll put all that below. But without further ado, let's bring on Mandy to the show. Mandy, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, well, let's get going with just a little bit about yourself. I gave you a little bit of an introduction, kind of where you're from, but just scratch the surface. So tell us a little bit about, where your real estate career started and how you're doing today.
Yeah, I'm excited to share. So I started my real estate business, to be frank, at complete rock bottom in my life. I was going through a divorce. I was a single mom to a 6-year-old boy. And it was at rock bottom that I realized that I can never live like this again. So I really set out on a journey to find a career that would allow me to establish myself, rebuild my life, and provide a good life for my son.
Okay. Well, that resonates well. A lot of times when getting into real estate, you have that kind of aha moment. And honestly, some of the very, very best agents that I have in our organization were single moms at rock bottom, kind of back against the wall, have to make, that money. And they've built incredible real estate careers. So it's interesting that you kind of started there because it's a different feeling, right? And obviously when your back's against the wall, there's 2 types of people. There's people that'll leave it against the wall, and there are people that'll push to, get just inches or centimeters per hour or per day, off of that wall and push forward. And that's really cool. So tell us a little bit about how you got started and like what you were, obviously with that feeling and that kind of hanging over your head, how did you get your first deal?
So I'm actually a 3rd generation realtor. So my dad is a real estate broker. And when I was enrolled in school to become an agent, he, presented me with the idea of opening up his own brokerage and me joining him in doing that. So when I started in the business, I started by also assisting my dad in helping us open up our own Weichert Realtors franchise. And so we were just hustling and really trying to get that built up. And through that, I had to learn how to do the business by really shadowing him because he was so busy building the business. I'd sit outside his office and write notes about what he was doing in negotiations, and really just had to be self-driven to just learn from experience and hearing what he was doing. So my first deal was, he was giving me a lot of his referrals so that he could be working on other areas of the business. And so, I can't quite remember if my first deal was one of my friends or someone I was helping of one of his clients, but, I had a lot of deals that year. So, it was just a lot of hustle.
Right. And so you're coming in, you're learning the business, right? By trial by fire. But one thing that a lot of agents don't latch onto is the learning piece, right? Sitting outside of his office, taking notes, going to the classes and courses that my dad taught. Like all of those things are ways that, we've learned the contract. And actually, I just made a post about this the other day is, when I was going to meet actually a freshman in college who was talking about getting his real estate license. His mom's been in the business. And when you're starting there, all you're focused on is not getting in trouble, right? Like,
Yes.
I don't want to screw something up. I don't want to screw somebody over or, put myself in
Yeah.
legal trouble. And the courses are laid out like that, at least in Colorado. The continuing education courses that are required are basically like, this is a story. And, they did this wrong and they got sued and, all the things.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a huge piece that you're having that education, learning the contracts, learning the flow of the business. But then, like, when you're really in it, and once you have that, like, there's the whole other side of marketing and connection.
Yes.
And, that's where the business kind of takes off, is once you can add those two together in a perfect meld and move forward. So we talked a little bit off camera about connection and kind of how did you take that first year and that, baseline and create the business that you have today?
Yeah. So, to be totally frank, when I started in the business, I met a lot of amazing agents up in Northeast PA. I loved the business. I felt like I was in my realm. And I also experienced agents who were so rude, I couldn't believe it. Like, I just couldn't believe people operated their businesses like that. And it was pretty much at that point in my career where I was like, I can never treat people like this. Like, this is awful. And so I really made it a very clear point to always treat everyone that I'm working with kindness, and treat them like they're my family, or, talk to them like they're my family or my friends, and not try to act like, I'm greater than them, or I know something better than them. And so it really put things into perspective for me about how to carry myself, even though I was new in the business.
Right. I love the front. I've been in the business for 30 years. Soon enough, I'll be there. Soon enough, I'll be there. But there's absolutely no reason to say that at any point in time.
No.
And I think that that's huge. And another commonality with me, and maybe it's our brokers, fathers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there is absolutely no reason that I have to be better than the agent on the other side.
No.
Right. Even
Totally.
after the NAR lawsuits, we're both getting paid, right? If we get to the finish line.
Yeah.
And why is it so difficult to get to the finish line is the question. And as you kind of connected with agents and all those things, I mean, my experience is that I've gotten many more positive things from those relationships, even if it hasn't been, getting one of my contracts accepted on their deal, or them joining, our organization, or whatever. But there's so many different ways to connect, right? And
yes,
I know that connection on, let's kind of flip the script a little bit and go towards the clients and kind of how you've scaled your business, in an extremely small market, low price point market, and you're doing numbers that, are within the top, 5-10% of the industry nationwide. So tell me a little bit about how you've taken that kind of mindset of connection and kindness over to your clientele.
Yeah, where I am now, this is the third market area that I've served. So when I started in the business, I was in Northeast Pennsylvania. And then shortly after my dad and I opened up our business, I met my now husband, and he was in law enforcement in the Harrisburg area. And so I eventually did relocate to the Harrisburg area to be near him and start our life together. And so I rebuilt my business there from scratch. And after a few years, we didn't think this through. We didn't think this was going to happen. But after a few years, he took an early retirement from law enforcement, and we moved up to this area, which is a completely different area. I've never worked in this area. So I've built my business 3 times, and coming here into a very rural area, it is absolutely beautiful here, but very, very rural. And so it was a little bit of culture shock for me to build a business where everyone is so spread out. and really I struggled a bit with, because as soon as we moved here, it was when COVID kind of, started. And so I had a little bit of a break in getting my momentum. And I think I realized in that time that, in a rural area, a lot of agents and brokerages are kind of stuck a little bit in the past, like into traditional real estate. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because I had experience in 3 different markets, well, 2 different prior to now, I saw so much more. I saw how they do it in multiple markets. And I was able to roll all of that knowledge and information into this area and kind of wrap it up in a big package and present that to my community here, and just kind of give it all I got in this area. And it's really been pivotal for me to have been able to learn from people in these larger areas, these larger cities, to be able to bring that to a rural area. And there's nothing against, the other agents in this area, but that's what I feel that has set me apart in my area I am now.
Yeah. And certainly early on, you're doing a lot of transactions. You're seeing a lot of things. Contracts are contracts, right? Certainly
Yes.
In rural areas, you have the water and the land and the oil, gas, and those kind of things. But as we kind of, push on that a little bit, what do you bring to the table for your clients? So where's that main connection point that you're finding these agents? I haven't heard you say Zillow. I haven't heard you say,
Oh yeah. Finding my clients.
Where are you connecting?
So in my journey, actually, there was one agent that I worked alongside in the Hershey, Harrisburg area. And I'll never forget this. She set aside so much time per month to network. And I kind of looked at her like, what? You're going out to lunch with somebody again? And it made me realize that people and connections are what make the real estate world go round. And so when I moved to this area, I made that a priority to just be who I am in the space that I feel comfortable in, and make a lot of friends, because I'm comfortable making a lot of friends. I want to have a lot of friends. I love people. So I realized that I could utilize that passion that I have for people by, just being kind and being friendly and being around people all of the time. And then a lot of those people are like your super connectors. They trust you. They believe in you. They want to see you successful. And so I have, multiple people in this small area I'm in who they just constantly send me business. They believe in me. They like me. I'm friends with them. So they are like, hey, I've got this client who, this friend who needs help. The majority of my business last year was referrals from just friends or, coworkers at my husband's work. But just peopling and being comfortable in that space. It is so powerful. It's unbelievable.
Right. And there's some, ultimately Mandy could just take the YouTube channel over, right? Because that's what we talk about so much on here. It's just being where your feet are. Like if you're going out for dinner with friends, it doesn't have to be about, Mandy's real estate business. Mm-hmm. It can be about, that connection and how she can pour into those people and how she can serve those people and help those people, because they'll see the social media. They'll see the, hey, she's coming from a showing. They see that stuff naturally when you're in true connection with people. And if all you're doing is pouring into others, they will absolutely pour into you, at least the good ones. Yes. So if that resonates with you, definitely subscribe to this channel because that's what we talk about. And that's exactly how I built my business. And Mandy and I's story is so congruent along the ways. I didn't leave any markets, but I definitely expanded markets, right? I went up to Fort Collins for college for 4 years, came back, started my real estate business here, then had my financial planner and a couple of extremely well-connected people in the northern area. So I serve a large area, kind of like a rural agent in a metropolitan city. but it's because of those connections, right? If I have my buddy Jake Rector up in, working for the city of Fort Collins, telling every single person that mentions real estate about me, my job's a lot easier, right? My hours are less. And so talk about those super connectors and how you kind of got them to be super connectors. I'm sure it wasn't like, hey, tell everyone that I help people buy and sell real estate. So tell me a little bit about just one. You can pick one, you can make up their name or whatever, and kind of how that relationship evolved into what it is.
So I'll give you an example. There's a few I can think of, but there is a girl that I met at a local retail establishment, and she sells t-shirts and earrings and, and just all the fun things. And I don't know, every time I stopped in there, I liked her, and I just, we talked a lot about the community and helping small businesses build. And I don't know, she just keeps sending everyone who comes in there who needs a realtor. She just keeps connecting me to these people. And I'm so grateful for that. I didn't originally, make the connection with her to do that by any means, but I'm just so thankful for people like that. And I think we can never discount the fact that while we're making these genuine, authentic relationships, that can come from that, and so we have to treat every single relationship equally, with trust and respect so that's just an example of that's one of multiple, but just building relationships, true, genuine relationships.
A small business owner, right? Somebody who makes, $3 or $4 per t-shirt or per earring.
Yeah.
Right. And Mandy's going in there. She's probably buying things, if I know
maybe
anything about it. Maybe she bought a lot. I don't know. But while she's doing that and she's supporting local business, she's maybe checking in on social media there. Maybe she's leaving a review. Maybe she's, sporting her earrings or her t-shirts or whatever that looks like. But the small business owner latches on to the small business owner faster than you could ever imagine.
Yes.
Right. Before you could even, hey, can I leave my cards here or whatever? It was two entrepreneurial minds in the same place at the same time, showing value, showing up, having discussions about small business, and boom.
Yep.
Right. That small business owner is in the trenches, just like you. It may be t-shirts instead of houses. It may be $3 instead of 10,000, but they see the grit and entrepreneurial spirit and they connect. And that is honestly cracking the code. If you have 5 small business owners that are marketing their business and all the things and talking to people and, you have that personality connection, they're going to come across people that need a realtor at some point in time. And if you're driving them business, they're going to drive you business. So absolutely incredible, just organic. I didn't tell her to say that, but that's exactly how it works. And then she says that's just one of many, right? And you can't, I love social media. You cannot make those connections without getting off the couch and going to be present in your community. And so talk a little bit about what, a day in the life looks like, a week in the life, because you mentioned the agent that said, time blocking, networking, and things like that. How do you fit that in? And how do you kind of balance the kind of hunting versus nurturing, or planting versus, watering kind of situation with that? So when are you going to have these networking, and do you have things in your schedule that are like, I'm going out and I'm going to find somebody new?
So I make sure that I am meeting with someone usually once a week, whether it just be for coffee or lunch, just to connect. And whether it means that it's someone who, it's not always intentional with, I want to get business. I just want to connect with people on a personal level, on a friendly level, and be in that practice. We can't just bury ourselves in our business and be constantly nonstop in, at the computer, lead generating, you've got to be out there. And so I usually once a week, I'll meet up with someone for coffee or lunch or something like that. But really, I don't have a specific schedule that I do this. It's just that my daughter is in school. And so I see people at the school pickup. And so I'm always talking with people there. I'm on the PTA, and I'm involved in that. So just being intentional where I am at that time with true relationships, and not coming from a salesy perspective, we don't realize how often we interact with people on just in a social setting that will give us that opportunity to be genuine and build relationships, not just say, hey, and walk away, ask them how they're doing. But there's a lot of really tangible things I could dive into in another call, but just specifically what I do. I mean, I always have either a name tag on or my realtor shirt on, and that is intentional, so I can be in a social setting, but everyone knows what I do, but I'm not going around waving my business cards at people. Right. So yeah.
And that's really where it transitioned. That young man yesterday that I met with, the guy in college who's thinking about becoming a realtor, asked me like when I was like comfortable, right? When I knew that, that the business was recurring and, I would be okay. Right. And that's a huge piece of that is when I could go to a place and just connect with people. And if it served me in any capacity, right? Every connection is self-serving, in my opinion, right? Yeah. I try and be that. But, for you, instance, as a mom, a wife, somebody on the PTA who's involved in your kid's school, like all of these things, these relationships, if you're just open and it's not like, this is my business relationship, this is my, friendships, this is my, acquaintance relationships. Mm-hmm. If you interact with every human and you're just like, where can I fit this into my life? Where can where can they pour into me and where can I pour into them? I think that that's huge instead of being like, okay, real estate prospecting. Okay. PTA time. Okay. Connection with my husband time. Like it's all one. And you just have different things as you go. And if you're open and you're a sponge to those environments and those energies, I think that there's absolutely no reason you can't build your business while doing everything you absolutely love to do. And so that's really cool. Okay. So let's talk about this. Somebody is in a new market or brand new to the industry. Where do you start and what kind of, milestones or, KPIs, so to speak, key performance indicators, are you going to give them so that they can get going and build a business, after several years that you have? What's the starting point?
Yeah. Starting point is don't hibernate. Get up off the couch, get out in the community, whether you're serving in the community or you're just going to the post office, twice a week or, wherever you are relocating to, you need to be out in the community in some capacity. You need to meet people. Like no one's going to just come knocking down your door. We have dozens and dozens and hundreds of agents in each association, people aren't going to just find you. You need to make yourself present so that you are top of mind when they need a realtor. And I think a lot of agents who are newer in the business think that, well, they probably already know an agent. You don't know that, right. Maybe they do know an agent, but maybe their agent stinks. Like maybe their agent is rude, but they would just call them anyway. Like be an example and take charge and go out there and be in front of people in some way. That would be my first recommendation. And, right. We, unfortunately, or I guess you could say, fortunately, we have to prove ourselves. to people. And we should do that being genuine, but we do have to prove ourselves that we are trustworthy, and we have to be in front of them in order to get business. The business is not going to just come. One of my favorite things is when agents are like, I'm so slow right now, I don't know what to do. And believe me, I've been there, but go get it. Get out there and go get it, because it's not coming after you.
Absolutely. And that's key. And some people say, well, I'm an introvert. Well, just go talk to one or two people. You don't have to talk to all of the people. One or two people at a time will take you, to the next level. So absolutely love that. Well, Mandy, we're going to wrap up, but wanted to thank you for your time. Where can people follow you, connect with you? We're going to have everything in the show notes, but where's the best place to kind of connect? Yeah,
the best place to reach me is Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well, but I'm a little bit more active on Facebook. But, you can call me, text me. I'm not an iPhone user, so you can't FaceTime me, but I will, whatever way is good for you, I will be there. And if anybody has any questions or just needs some support in their journey, I'm here for it. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much for everything you do for the Wolfpack, for EXP.
Thank you.
And so excited to see kind of what the future holds for you. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Wolfpack Way. We do it a little bit differently here, and we're featuring top agents from across the country, soon to be global, and just giving you what it takes to get a win every single day at the game of real estate. So like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast with your favorite real estate agent, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.